Hello! In this video I am going to give you a tour of the inside of the straw bale house that Dave and I built. I'm going to give you a few details first, and then I'm going to do a kind of a fast or quicker walkthrough of the entire house, and then I think that I'll probably break it down room by room and spend a little more time explaining some of the things and why we did them the way that we did. Okay, first of all, a few details about the straw bale house. The house is approximately 916 square feet, so it is a small house. It's just the two of us living here, and we didn't figure we needed anything bigger than that. In fact, it really could have been smaller. We began construction, we broke ground in July of 2009, and we moved into the house in October of 2011. Now, at the time that we moved in, the house was not completely finished as we would like to have it finished, and as of this date of the upload of this video, it's still not finished, and it probably won't be finished by us because if you're following my channel, you know that we are preparing to move into an RV, and we want to sell our property, and there are reasons for that, but I'm not going to go into them in this video. The construction was done entirely by Dave and myself, except for pouring the slab. Dave and I, we marked it out, we dug the trenches, we laid out the forms, we tied all the rebar, we did everything. But on the day that the concrete was poured, we hired 3 other guys to come and help us because we just felt like it was a little too big of a job for us to comfortably do by ourselves, and getting the foundation and the slab right is really important, so we didn't want to mess that up. Okay, I think that is all I'm going to say about the house for now, and I'm going to go ahead and begin the walkthrough. I am right now standing at the back door. I'll turn the camera off of myself and show y'all. This is out the back door, and you come in and you can see a straight shot through the house to the front door. Walking in, we've got a doorway here that goes into the laundry and mechanicals, sort of a storage utility room area. And then in this direction, we have the bathroom. Moving ahead, we walk into the rest of the house. This is the main living space, which consists of the kitchen and also where we hang out. I guess a lot of people would refer to this as a living room. And it's just one big open space. Okay, off the kitchen over here you see another door, and this leads into our pantry. And we walk in here, we've got shelves. It's kind of a long, narrow space. The shelves go all the way to the ceiling, and it is, if you walk all the way around, you are looking back where I was standing after the back door, looking into the utility room. So it is, you can walk all the way around. I'm just going to go back this way. And this is standing in the doorway to the utility room, looking in the house from this direction. Okay, moving on. That is the front door in the center of the screen. And over there is the fireplace, or the wood-burning stove. And off of the living area, we have a double wide doorway that goes into our small bedroom. We don't have a door on here. We just have these curtains on either side that are hanging, and if, you know, in the morning, say Dave gets up earlier than I do and I want a little bit more privacy, or not really privacy, but just to keep the light and stuff from shining in, we can close those curtains. Or if we've got people over and we don't want them to see the bedroom, you know. Mostly though, we just leave this open. I'm gonna go ahead and come into the bedroom. It's just pretty simple. Then, if we turn and go this direction, we walk into the closet, which is kind of it's like a closet where we store our clothes, but it's just a general storage room also, kind of. I mean, we keep a lot of things in here. It is almost the same size as the bedroom, so there's plenty of room in here. Then if we walk on through the closet, let me turn around and show you where we just came from. That's the door going back into the bedroom. There's Tough. Hi, Tough. Then in here we have the bathroom, and it's a pretty large bathroom, spacious. Every bathroom that we've ever had in a house has been kind of small and cramped, so we made this bathroom plenty large because we like space. We like the freedom to move. It just gives you a less constricted feel, I think. Anyway, so yeah, that's the bathroom, and then that's looking back into the closet and the bedroom. And right here is the door looking out of it. We see the back door where I started, and across the hall, the entry into the utility room. Okay, so that is the quick walkthrough. Now I'm going to go into each area and give a little further details and explanation of each of those spaces. I am standing in the hallway looking at the back door, and something that I wanted to point out is the screen door. Dave made the screen doors for both the front and the back door. This is the back door. I'll show you the front door in a moment. And we looked at buying screen doors, and they're just so flimsy, and or if you spring for the more expensive ones, they still just weren't really what we were looking for. So he pulled these together and we made them. Up above the back door, you will see the first plaster or lime plaster sculpture that I did in the walls. There are several of these in the house. This one is a tree with the roots, kind of the whole tree of life theme. And how I did that was, after we were done with the final layer of lime plaster on the inside, I sculpted that with my fingers and a spoon I used. And it's just the same material as the wall render. The walls, by the way, have 3 coats of stucco render on them. There's the first coat, which is the scratch coat, then there's a second coat, and the final coat. And on the inside, it's a lime plaster, and it's a breathable substance, and it allows the walls to breathe. that noise that you hear in the background, that's Dave outside. He's cutting trim for the RV today. So excuse the noise back there. Hopefully it's not too disturbing. Okay, next I am going to show you the utility room and we'll talk about it. This is joined up with the pantry that I showed you a moment ago, and it's an L-shaped space. You walk around that corner over there past the water heater and you're in what we call the pantry. And this space is basically for the washer and dryer. It's kind of a storage and utility space. We have a utility sink in here that's wonderful. I've used this so much. In here we also have our whole house water filter, and then next to that you see a bunch of red tubes, and they are coming out of the slab. That is the radiant heat system that we installed in the slab. Before we poured the concrete, we ran PEX tubing looped all through the floor. And that is connected to this water heater, which is also the water heater for the rest of the house. Like, you turn the faucet on and that's where it comes from. And the water is heated in there, and when we turn a pump on, which the switch is over in the hallway where I came in, here is the pump in the transformer for this system. And you turn it on and it pumps warm heated water through the slab in a continuous circuit, and it warms the slab, and then the slab being warm, everything that's in contact with the slab gets warm, and it is wonderful. In the winter when it really gets cold here, which happens every once in a while, we don't use this a lot, but we do use it, but when it gets really cold and you're able to walk around in your house barefooted and the floor is nice and warm, that is great. Okay, so that's looking back to the back door, and I'm going to show you all of our pecans. Look here, we have pecans. We have a lot of pecan trees on this property, and we've been harvesting them, and there's a place in town near where we live that will crack them for us, and so we're going to take them all there, and we're keeping all our pecans. We're going to eat them ourselves. Here's one of the windows. Just as long as I'm here, I'll just show you the feature of this window. You can see how deep the windows are. That's how thick the walls are. There's another additional probably 2.5 to 3 inches of render on the exterior of the walls, so it even goes out a little further than that. I like it. I love it. I think it really looks cool, and it makes you feel like you're really in a substantial structure, and this is the reason right here, the thickness of the walls is the reason the straw bale houses are known to be extremely energy efficient. They are incredible for keeping you cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Okay, here is our freezer. And over here, I showed you the pump for the radiant floor heat. And now I am standing at the very corner of this space, looking back that way. And over here, this is the L-shaped shape I was telling you about. Over here we have our pantry. When we first moved into the house, we did not have the shelves built, and we just we got some of those L-shaped metal brackets, and we just put some boards up, and we had some totes in here, some like Rubbermaid totes, and it worked. It wasn't ideal, and it kind of looked cluttered and stuff because things weren't organized very well having it that way. But I can't remember exactly when it was that we finally built the shelves, but they're very nice. The wood from the shelves and a lot of other things inside the house that hopefully I'll remember to point out to you are reclaimed materials. The wood in here came from the old farmhouse that was on this property when we bought it. There was a wood frame structure on this property, and it was in pretty sad shape, a really old farmhouse. We're talking clapboard, no insulation. And Dave and I lived in that while we were building the straw bale house. And when we were done and we moved into this house, we tore the other one down and we salvaged a lot of the materials from it, some of which are the wood that you see here. The shelves themselves, this plywood, it was actually the floor. In an addition part, there was an old part of the house, and then someone had built 2 additions on it, and they weren't really very well insulated, weren't much better than the old house. But anyway, we tore those down first, and the plywood was the floor in the addition in that house that we were living in before we got this one to the point where we could move into it. And here is, if we walk on through, it's kind of a narrow space, but there's plenty of room in here to walk through. You're not rubbing your shoulders up against the wall or anything. This is my pantry. I do a lot of canning. I can things that we've grown here on the property, and I also buy produce in season whenever you can get the best price on it, and I can it so that I buy a large quantity of it, and it saves us some money, and we have wonderful, delicious, healthy food to eat. Anyway, these shelves go all the way down here, and I keep the lesser used stuff probably down at the bottom. Up on the top shelf, we've got some things. It's a nice wide space up there for stuff, and a lot of empty canning jars on the top shelf. So that is the pantry. Then over here in this corner, Dave made this little triangular shaped shelving that fits nicely into the corner to use this space up. But if he had made it so that it was a rectangle, it would have kind of made this like flow through here. I'll show you here, it works a lot better. Makes it a lot wider pathway through here. The shelves on the end on this other side, he also cut at an angle, and it just makes it flow really nicely. Okay, next. Guess since we're in the kitchen, I will talk about it. I'm standing in the pantry doorway, looking into the main living space. And this over here is the kitchen area. When we moved into this house, we didn't have any of this countertop over here. We had a makeshift thing that worked, and we were using the old stainless steel sink from the old house that we tore down. And Dave had rigged up some brackets, and he just had it mounted on the wall over there. And we didn't really have much counter space, and it was kind of a challenge to cook and do things in here. We were food making, but we made it work. We butchered a lot of deer in here, pigs. We canned a lot of food, and that was all before we got this countertop. We've done all those things since we built the countertop too, but I'm just saying that you don't really need a big, huge kitchen with lots of counter space to do a lot of work, although it does make it easier. This stove is, gosh, I don't even know how old this is. My mom, I should ask her when my grandparents bought this. But this was my grandparents' stove, and we inherited it. We thought about buying a new stove, but you know what? This thing works really well, and honestly, I like the way it looks. I just like the way it looks. I like the way it looks a lot better than many of the newer stoves, at least the ones in our budget. I know that they make some that are really nice, kind of retro, but have you seen the price tag on those things? But yeah, we use this stove. It's got a really nice oven. It's got a broiler compartment, a nice area cabinet over here to the side. We've got some stuff in. You can put things in there and keep them warm too. And we opted to not put any kind of cabinetry in here. Number one, it's expensive. Number two, I prefer an open look. I don't know. I think I'm just not a huge fan of cabinets. I've seen some that I really like, and I certainly think they look good in houses. But for our purposes, we don't really feel that we needed them, and we didn't need to spend the money on something that neither one of us was very enthusiastic about. So we just opted to keep it open. Now, if we were going to stay here and finish this house, we had planned to put some open shelving on this wall and behind here, but obviously that is probably not going to happen now since we're going to be leaving. We did build this countertop and the shelves underneath there, and once again the wood is from the floor of the old house, and this countertop is concrete, and Dave and I poured that. It was a challenging endeavor, and it didn't turn. We'd done a countertop or a concrete table thing before, and I'll show you that in a minute, and that turned out really well. And so, but that was it. That was the only real experience that we had. So Dave created the form for this, and we poured it, and what ended up happening is that we used not the ideal mix for the concrete, and what we ended up with as a result was a surface that's a little rougher than what we had wanted. Now, if we had if we rented or had one of those wet sanding, heavy-duty wet sanders, we could sand this and make it like really smooth. But that operation is really messy, and it's just something that we never got around to doing. And since we're not going to be staying here now, it's fine. We just left it the way it is. It's still easy to keep clean. It has been stained. This is not just plain concrete. We put some brown and black colorant in the mix. And let's see, I'll show you the support for this is made out of rebar. Dave used rebar for a lot of things in here. I forgot to show you the thing that he made for the sink in the utility room. I'll have to go back in there maybe and show you that. But yeah, it's really sturdy. If you can see underneath here, it's attached to the wall, and it should be fine. I mean, you could get up there and jump around on top of it. It's not going anywhere. Then we bought this, got a really good deal on this huge stainless steel farmer style extra deep sink, which has been really handy if you're into doing a lot of cooking and canning and food stuff like we have been. Then it's nice to have a big sink like this. Behind the sink we have an opening that we put in the wall just because we felt like it was a really big block of wall here, and by having this opening we can pass things through. Just on the other side of this is the utility sink, so you know, it's easy for us to, when we were working on big food projects, processing deer and pigs, sometimes, you know, one of us would be in there doing some things and one of us is in the kitchen, and we can pass things back and forth. Also, it just kind of opens it up more, and you can see out that window over there, and it brings the light through, and it also improves air circulation in the house, so that is why we did that. If we were going to finish this, we would have put tile in behind here, a tile backsplash. As it is now, all of the walls, the interior walls, are OSB plywood. We did not use any drywall. There's no drywall in this house. Neither one of us are a fan of drywall. And it's just painted, you know. We planned if we'd been able to stay here and finish this, we were going to put something else over the walls. We had salvaged a lot of boards, really cool old looking boards from the other house. And we thought about, you know, attaching them to the walls, and it would have given it kind of a rustic look, but that's not going to happen, not with us anyway. And just panning around, there's the door to the pantry. This is the first concrete countertop we did, and this is not, we didn't build this for the house. This is a work table that we built when we still lived in Wisconsin. And it's got big casters on it. It's super heavy duty. This thing probably weighs who knows how much. But it was a motorcycle table, which is why there are these little rings on the corner for straps, you know, strapping a bike to the top of this to work on. And when we started building the straw bale house, we had it in here because it made a really good work table. And after we were done, we kept it in here because we were using it as an island, like a kitchen island, a work surface. We intended to eventually build a island that would look, you know, nicer, more like a piece of furniture in here to put in this area. And since we're not doing that, we just left this in here and it works great. It's got some shelves underneath. That table is, I also inherited from my grandparents. Okay, coming over here. This is the very center of the house, and we are looking up into the cupola, which is closed right now. There is a fan, obviously, hanging there at the bottom. And then up beyond the fan, you can see that it just looks like a ceiling. It's just more plywood, but that is a hinged door that opens from in the attic. And when that's open, and maybe I can get Dave to open it for me in a minute and I can show you that, you can see all the way up to the top of the house. There are windows in the cupola up there, and it really brings light in. And the reason we did the cupola is to use passive cooling. We have no air conditioning in this house, and it helps a lot to be able to open the windows down below at night when it cools off in the summer. And then we turn this fan on so that it is sucking air up towards the cupola, and it vents. The hot air rises, of course, and we open the windows up in the cupola, and it really moves the air through this house. In the winter, like now, it's winter, we close that door because we don't want the heat rising and hanging out up in the cupola. Dave is going up in the cupola right now, and he's going to open this hatch so that we can show y'all what that looks like. And you can stand on that whenever you're up in the attic and it's closed. You can stand up there and look out the windows in the cupola, which is kind of neat. Okay, there it is. And there's a light up there, and then of course that hatch has to be closed for us to crawl up there and access those windows that are in the very top. But we can open all 4 of those, and that helps tremendously with cooling and air circulation. Speaking of the windows, this is a small house and we wanted windows on all 4 sides of the house, and we did that for the reason that we knew we weren't going to be using air conditioning, and we wanted to be able to have complete and total cross ventilation all through the house, and it works really well. Okay, the rest of this space, that's the main living area. This over here is just where it's like my office space, is where the magic happens. We've got a window out there. You see our propane tank, the water heater, and the stove are gas. Then, oh, I forgot to show you the other thing here, carving. Here's another one of those reliefs I did in the stucco. It's just a little lizard. Around here we have a lot of these things called Texas spiny lizards. They're in the trees. They are arboreal mostly. They're in the trees everywhere around here, and I was inspired by that to add this little guy here on the inside of this window. Coming around, we have the wood burning stove. I call it a stove. Some people call it something else. It's not really a stove, although we do put like a kettle up there whenever the fire's going. And this is a pretty small stove, but whenever we build a fire in this, it can be like in the teens outside with the wind blowing, and it gets plenty toasty inside this house. It's very nice. Here's looking out the front of the house. We put in a double window here, which brings in a lot of light, and it's nice for looking out in the yard at all of the big live oak trees that are out there in the front. And let me bring you around. This is Dave's chair. That's where he spends a lot of his time. This is the truth window. And this is a common feature for most straw bale houses because it's kind of unique that they're built out of straw bales, and people want to show that. So when some people doubt it. They doubt that you have built your house out of straw. And so you can take them over to your truth window. Some people put a little door over the top of this and do it in all different kinds of ways. We were gonna finish this up with some sort of little frame around it more than what's here now, because this is cedar, this part here, and we've got it shimmed in here, and we were gonna put some trim around that to make it look nicer. But anyway, yeah, you can see the bales, and you can also see the chicken wire over the top of them, because there's chicken wire it's sewn all over the walls, and we did that by attaching the chicken wire, and then we used baling twine with a great big needle that we made out of a piece of rebar, and we thread the needle with the baling twine and then stick it through the wall. And one of us was on the one side of the wall and one on the other. The other person would grab it, and then we just sew. You just sew the wire, and there's wire mesh on the outside of the walls as well, and so it's all tied in together from the inside and the outside, if that makes any sense. Here's another of the carvings in the wall. This is a squirrel, and he's getting some nuts off of a pecan tree, because we have so many pecan trees around here, and we also have a lot of squirrels. So that is the inspiration for that. Here is the front door. And the front door is custom. Dave made this front door, and the wood that it's made from was the bathroom walls of the old farmhouse that we tore down. As I said, it was board walls, and these were the boards. They're tongue and groove, and they are on the inside of this door and the outside. I'll open it in a minute and show you. And then the core, he used really thick plywood, and it's all glued and screwed together, and it's really heavy and very thick. He also made all of the hardware. He made the hinges. He didn't make this part. These are some hinges that they sell. They're called bullet hinges, and you can grease them. People buy them and use them around here a lot for big, heavy metal gates and stuff. Anyway, they worked really well. He welded these pieces that we cut out with our plasma cutter on there, and it gives it definitely an interesting look. You can't go to Home Depot and buy this door. Okay, let me open this, and I'll show you this is how thick this door is. And then here is the outside of the door. Let me open it more. And here is our door knocker. This is Pan, the forest critter, and we found this in an antique shop up in Door County, Wisconsin. It used to be white. It didn't really have a paint job, and I painted it to sort of look bronze. Anyway, some people have real adverse reactions to this thing. I guess they think it looks demonic or whatever. They don't know much about mythology and stuff, but I had one girl who we knew, who we told her we were putting this on the front of our house whenever we built it. This was way years before we ever built this house. And she was like, no, don't do it. You'll curse your house or something. I don't know. Anyway, here is the other screen door that Dave made. And unfortunately, our weather stripping is coming off here. But we just need to glue that back on. And here is the plate where the door latches into. And this is a really large door. Everything, this door, you would have to get something custom made if you were going to want to buy something to put in this space. We knew we were going to be making our own door, so that's why we did it that way. Let me shut this just because I think the light is better with it shut. As long as we're in the living room area, oh, this is a rattlesnake skin. We have lots of rattlesnakes around here, and I don't mind rattlesnakes. I don't hate them, and I don't go out of my way to kill them. But whenever they come onto our property and we find them, we really just have to chop their heads off. And because they are deadly and can cause you a trip to the emergency room or kill your dogs and stuff. Not because they're evil or that, they really want to. It's just, people and rattlesnakes and animals and stuff, they just don't mix. But anyway, we had to dispatch this rattlesnake, and I'd never cured a rattlesnake skin, so I tried it. I used glycerin and just some stuff I found on the internet on how to do it. And yeah, so we stretched that out on that board, our little piece of morbidity. Okay, I wanted to point out that this gray, it kind of looks like, mop board or whatever on the bottom, but this is where the forms were for this ledge. The bales sit on top of this. This is part of the slab, and it's all one piece. It was all poured at once. And so the bales start about right here. They're sitting on top of this ledge. That way, if ever you had like a washer die in your house or somehow or another water got in here, it would have to rise in the floor like this far before it started to touch the walls where the bales are, because it is very important that you keep the bale walls dry when you build a house this way. And most people, it's common to elevate the walls up on some type of ledge, but that is what that is. And then the bales are not sitting directly on the concrete. I did have a question about this. Someone was asking about what about moisture wicking up from the concrete. And yeah, that has been discussed and solved in various ways. The way that we chose to deal with it is that on that top of that ledge, before the bales got put on it, we coated it with a super thick layer of this like asphalt tar material, and then the bales sit on top of that. So that's a measure of protection between the concrete wicking moisture into the bottom row of bales. Okay, let's see. Moving on to the bedroom area. There's some more of the carvings in here. This is the first one that I did over here in the corner. In case it turned out bad, I didn't really want it to be center stage, but I just did this little bird. And then up above the bed, there's some little spider webs on there. I need to get up there with a vacuum. But that is another one that I did with the moon and stars. And you'll notice that all of the ceiling fans and light fixtures have these little boxes built. They're not attached directly to the ceiling, which is also OSB plywood. It took us a long time to put all of that up, just the two of us. It was quite the task. But the reason for the boxes is that was Dave's idea, and he said that we wanted as few holes, large holes, punched through the ceiling as possible, because we used blown-in cellulose insulation, and that stuff is notorious for, regardless of how much plastic or whatever you may put up there over those holes where your light fixtures go through, of sifting down through and causing a lot of dust in your house from it. So all that's up underneath those boxes is some small holes drilled for the wires, and we didn't have to have a larger hole. So anyway, I felt like it was a lot of work, extra work to make the boxes, but he did that, and that was his reasoning behind it, in case anyone is wondering about that. All of the ceiling fans in the house are new, but most of the light fixtures, like the one hanging over there above my desk, these, you can see they don't really match. The one that's hanging above the kitchen, the ones I just mentioned are all we either got for free or really cheap at like thrift stores. We did buy these pendant lights that are over the bed, on either side of the bed, and those little lights, the light that's above the kitchen sink up there, that's actually like an outside light, and I think it cost us like $4. But anyway, yeah, we didn't spend money on fixtures. We spent a little bit more money for ceiling fans, just because we felt like that was important to get good ones, since we're not going to have air conditioning. And so far, they have been good. Not really much more to say about the bedroom. As long as I'm in here, I can mention and show you the floor. The floor is concrete, and this is the slab, and it's been acid stained. I used a variety of different colors of acid, and then I also sprinkled Miracle Grow, like it wasn't Miracle Grow, but it was that type of fertilizer, all over the floor, and this is what we ended up with. I had done some acid staining before, but I really didn't know, unless you do it all the time and have experimented all these different things, you really don't know what you're going to turn out with, what you're going to end up with until after it's done. But I'm pleased with the way this went. I wanted it to be brown, and I wanted it to look kind of marbly or splotchy, leather-like, and I think that it turned out close enough. Going into the closet. This is a pocket door space, and we have a door that we salvaged out of the old house that we were going to put here, and we just never have gotten around to it because it just seems unnecessary. Dave and I, we don't mind each other's company, and closing doors and stuff actually rarely happens. We do have a door. These are the doors that were in the old house. We did put the pocket doors on the bathroom area. We've got one here, and then I'll show you in a minute when we go in the bathroom the other one. And they had like layers and layers of paint on them. I don't know how many times they've been painted, probably like 8. And no one ever stripped the paint off. They just painted right over. So I wore proper mask and everything, the really good kind, because I am sure that some of the paint was lead. And I stripped these doors, and this one I left kind of like it is. I got it down as good as I could, and then I put a lacquer over the top of this that hopefully seals it all in. And I think it looks cool. You can see the hole. It's got the mark down here from where the handle or the doorknob and stuff was attached. The doors weren't quite long enough, so Dave made these metal hangers for the top, that out of just some scrap metal that we had from another project, flashing like material. Okay, yeah, so this is the closet, and we finished the least in here, I guess you'd say. We haven't ever put the plywood up on this part, the inside of the closet walls, and we were going to do that. We were going to finish everything if we had stayed here, but it doesn't, I mean, we don't mind, and it's not a big deal to us. I guess some people would really have a problem with stuff like this, but that definitely isn't our inclination. And this would be like the north wall of the house over here. you can see our really fancy closet hanging system. This is like a metal pipe that was, I think, from chain link fence material that was here. And then Dave just wrapped some wire around it, and he's got it hanging from screws from the ceiling. And the same thing over there. So yeah, that's very deluxe clothes hanging. And of course, we were gonna, do something different and whatever, but didn't happen. Let's see what else to tell you about in here. In here is where the access to the attic is. You can see this opening, or you can kind of see where there's like, see that? That's an opening. And we were planning on building a stairs that pull down so that it would come back in here, almost to where these clothes are hanging behind me. And we would be able to pretty much walk up it like stairs. But we didn't get to that part yet. So that's why the ladder is in here. The ladder is for us to go up and down into this hatch, into the attic, so that we can open and close the cupola. And open and close the cupola windows. In the summer, we have the cupola open almost all the time, but if a big rainstorm comes, then we have to go up there to shut the windows. There are 4 windows in the cupola. That's it for the closet. Moving on to the bathroom. I'll shut this door so we can see how that looks. It's a little different on this side. A little more paint remained on it. The bathroom, we used... This is the sink that was in the old house, the old farmhouse that we lived in while we were building this house. And it was attached to some like particle board cabinet. And we just busted the cabinet part off, and Dave temporarily mounted this onto the wall. We were planning on pouring some sort of concrete sink and countertop that would go all the way across this space here. We never got to that. But this has worked fine. Now I want to direct you to the PEX tubing that's coming out of the wall over here. All of the interior plumbing is PEX tubing, and we ran it on the inside instead of up in the attic, because here it is in the heated space, and we don't have to worry as much about it freezing, even though PEX tubing is supposed to handle that okay. Eventually we were going to build some sort of false beam type deal in here so that we could cover those up and you wouldn't see them, but we did not get to that either. The toilet is reclaimed from the old farmhouse. It was a pretty decent toilet. We didn't feel we needed to go out and buy a new one, so saved some money there. And then this is the shower. And the shower is a unique part of the house because it is the only exterior wall, the part that's actually in the shower, that is traditional 2x4 construction. The rest of the exterior walls, they're all straw bale, but we isolated the shower by building it, having it be like almost like a freestanding unit. In fact, we built the shower before we ever put any bales on the walls. So the structure was the frame with the shower stall built for a long time. I don't know what people around here must have thought we were doing. But so yeah, it's the only wall that is what we would think of as a regular width. So it makes the shower actually bigger. I mean, it's kind of because the walls aren't so thick. Here is this would be like the wall where the bales are, kind of that width. But there's 2x4 wall between where it connects to the bale. So nowhere does this inside of the shower where it's wet directly contact with the bale walls. It's very isolated, and there's all sorts of layers and tar paper, and the special wet backer board, cement board is in here in behind the tile. And we've got 2 little windows in here that really add a lot of light. We've got a light up there. That's an exterior light that's rated to be waterproof, and it works fine. We've had no problem with it in here. I did the tile. I made this mosaic out of free tile that we had that was left here. The person that we bought this property from, part of what he did for money for a living was to install flooring, and he had left a whole bunch of random pieces of tile here, and there was enough for us to do this shower and for me to make this mosaic. And the mosaic was inspired because this is the Texas Hill Country, and there are a lot of big rolling hills around here, and that's kind of where I got my inspiration for that. Dave made these shower fixtures, and they are copper pipe, and pardon them, they need to be cleaned really good. But we've got 2 of them in here, and it works really good. The shower is 4x4. So that is that. Here we've got a window. This window is different than all the other windows in the house. We found this window. It's an extra tall, skinny window, and someone had special ordered it, and then I guess they didn't want it for some reason, and so they had it for an extremely reduced price. And it was the same kind of window as the rest of the windows in the house, so we purchased it and we put it in here. And because it's extra tall, we had to do the top part a little different, and there's a slanted lintel on top of there, so it kind of really opens it up, and it makes brings a lot of light into the bathroom, which can tend to be sort of a dark, well, the closet's the darkest room because there's no window, but it can seem a little dark in here at times because we've got this big oak tree in the backyard. The shade's back here, but that really, it reflects the light off the sides of the window opening, and it's nice. Okay, that is it. We've gone all the way around the house now, full circle. Well, that concludes my tour of the Straw Bale house. I am sure that I didn't cover everything in as much detail as I could have. There are so many things about this house and building it that I just can't remember it all while I'm walking around, and also it would be like a 2-hour video or something if I really went into extreme detail about all of the construction and a lot of the stories and how things were done. But you get the general idea, and you got to see the inside of the house. I will do a outside tour of the house and the property sometime, maybe. Give me a thumbs up if you would like to see that, and leave me some comments below. Tell us what you think, if you have any questions. And thank you for listening to me. Have a great day. Bye.